Somebody's going to click. Okay, so I'm Terry Camerzell, and I'm here with Creation Fellowship Santee. We're a group of friends bound by our common agreement that the creation account, as told in Genesis, is a true depiction of how God created the universe and all life in just 6 days, a few thousand years ago. We've been meeting on this platform since June of 2020, and we've been blessed with a number of different speakers who have brought to us presentations that blend creation science, other theology topics, and even current events. You can find links to most of our past presentations by typing in tinyurl.com/CF Santee. That's C like creation, F like fellowship, and Santee is spelled Santee. You can also email us at creationfellowshipsantee@gmail.com to get on our email list so that you don't miss any of our upcoming speakers. We like to do current events topics, and especially through the lens of scripture, we like to refer to these topics as consequences of evolutionary thinking. And that's what we have with us for tonight. Our guest is Reverend Kevin McGary. He's the founder and president of Every Black Life Matters. His focus is teaching real justice from the womb to the tomb. And we'll let him give a little more information about his ministry and about the books that he's written as he talks to us tonight. So go ahead, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Typically when I do talks, people say, well, wait, let's see, every Black life matters. Well, you're different than BLM, but why are you still dividing us? Why are you? So let me address the elephant in the room, okay? Every Black life matters started because of the violence, hatred, vitriol, and destruction of Black and brown businesses that BLM willfully participated in a couple of years ago. And then what was the real icing on the cake for us is we realized that pastors were encouraging their parishioners to go out there and fully participate with BLM and Antifa as they did their stuff. And so we thought that was a bridge a little bit too far. We understand that there are a lot of righteous and faithful people that were grief-stricken by the 9 minutes and 43 seconds of what they saw with George Floyd. But they, for the most part, after they went home and went to the website of BLM, they would understand that it's a Marxist organization, that it's anti-father, anti-family, anti-life, and just everything that is antithetical. And so we realized that some people of faith would want a righteous and faithful way to support an organization that was really about Black life. Now, we started it strategically because we really wanted to illuminate an issue. The issue is Black life. And so if you read Every Black Life Matters and you put TOO at the end, you'll get a sense for why we are here. It means every Black life matters too. So the problem with Black life, just in general, is the biggest problem that Black life has is just getting out of the womb. Blacks are being born at this rate, and all other ethnicities are being born at this rate because of the strategic targeting of Planned Parenthood. When Margaret Sanger said, look, we don't want the word to get out, but we want to fully exterminate the Negro population. She didn't say we want to exterminate Blacks and Asians or Blacks and Hispanics or Black and any other race. She said, we want to exterminate Blacks, period. And that's why Blacks are being born at this rate and others are being born at this rate. When we say every Black life matters too, it just means that all lives matter. Every life matters. So you should stand with us, because what we're saying is, can we at least, at the very least, if you're a moral person, and let's say you don't believe in the faith stuff, but you're a moral person, morally, isn't it more righteous for us to at least have the opportunity to be born at the same rate that every other ethnicity is? So every Black life matters is really a statement that all lives matter. Every life matters. So stop targeting Blacks for extermination. 90% of all Planned Parenthoods are in the Black community. within walking distance of Black and brown communities. So you have a very, very small demographic, but 90% of all of your facilities and resources are in this small percentage of demographic. Why? If Planned Parenthood or other abortuaries were sincere about just women's health care, seems to me they would use the demographics that are already outlined by Target or Walmart. That's where women congregate. They would probably just put their Planned Parenthood clinics on the back end of every Walmart and Target in the country. Problem solved. You got women. No, you're not targeting anybody. Women congregate there and you give them services. But no, right now, 90% are strategically targeted, where Margaret Sanger wanted them targeted to exterminate the Black community. So that's why we're here. And that's our organization. If you go to everyblm.com, you can find out more information about us, and you could support us, pray for us, pray with us, and help us to really stand for righteousness, justice, and faithfulness throughout the country. So I really wanted to talk today about a subject that's near and dear to all of our hearts. And yes, it's near and dear to me too. And that would be white supremacy. Now, you guys are probably saying, look, oh, come on. I've been called a white supremacist, but you can't. Look at you. Yeah, my brother-in-law calls me a white supremacist. He said, Kev, man, look, you're a white supremacist, man. I'm like, oh, shit. So, yeah, I'm not absolved just because of skin color from ad hominems. We're all in the same suit. So I want to talk about white supremacy and racism, what it is, where it came from, why it's here today, and how it's being, proliferated to this very day. The good news is I'm so glad this is a group that's committed to creationism, because what you will see as I go through my discussion is the persons involved in evolutionary theories are literally the ones that are causing racism and white supremacy. And it's not an ad hominem. It's not a pejorative. It's not projection. It's fact. So I'm going to give you the facts. We're going to walk through it. We're going to talk through it, and I'll take any and all questions at the end. So let me share a little bit here with you. Let's go here. Yeah, this one. And here we go. All right. Let me close these others down real quick. All right, here we go. And expand that one. Here we go. Hold on. Bear with me. All right, here we go. Okay. So my website, actually not my website, but my YouTube channel is Y'all Woked Up. And it correlates or corresponds to the book, Woked Up. And again, that was done about 4 months ago. Released about 4 months ago. Lots of 5-star reviews on Amazon. The best way to get it is just to go to Amazon. You get it in about 2 days, and come to your doorstep. It covers everything I'm talking about today, but it gives you exact talking points with footnotes. This is a kind of conversation you are going to want to further explore with your reading groups, with your children, your grandchildren, as they come in and say, Grandma, are we white supremacists? Are we privileged? Are we racist? You'll have answers. This is what the book is. It talks about the woke movement, what it's fully embraced in, what it's rooted in. Here, I'll give you a secret. It's literally, by definition, the wokesters that are white supremacists and racist. So that should be some good news for you, for us, because as they project, you white Christian nationalist, you racist, you literally and by definition, this is not an ad hominem for an ad hominem. This is fact-based historical evidence that we'll go through tonight that confirms that they are fully embracing white supremacy and racism. Now, they can get rid of it. They could stop being woke. That's the only way. And so, but you need to have all of the talking points in your hand so you can talk them through what I'm talking about, what I'm going to reveal to you tonight, and help them. Because a lot of wokesters are there because of cultural pressure. You know, they've been pressured into it. They don't want to be canceled or doxxed or, you know, any of the other things that these crazy woke movement is doing to people today. So you need to help them to understand what it is. And so getting the book Woked Up would do that. Also, on my Y'all Woked Up, I do 1 minute shorts on current events. And so I have about 400 videos out there. It's just 1 minute, quick hits on what's happening. Non-woke format, just, hey, these are some things that's happening. It's crazy. And so Y'all Woked Up, again, is a good YouTube channel I'd like you to subscribe to. Let's see. So let's continue. All right. We also provide training, racial unity training and certification. So, and DEI training for corporations and small groups. And so this is an example of what we did at Awaken Church, the largest church in San Diego, a couple of months ago. And that was our sort of coming out, where we invited the community in, got feedback, refined our modules. We have multiple modules that we go through and certify on each module. And so I just wanted, if you're a business owner, if you're a small group leader, if you're whatever, you can go to our website and get information about our racial unity training. All right. We don't do the whole dividing the room. Okay, all you whites, you getting back and you just sit down and shut up. All you ethnics, you come up here and let's talk about how crazy those white folks are. That divides organizations. That builds distrust. That creates a toxic environment, and that creates hate. So we actually have a way of actually encouraging companies and small groups to come together and actually respect one another and commit to working on racial unity together, and identifying it and doing something about it together, not pointing out somebody else's ethnicity. It's ridiculous. So we do this, and if you want more information on that, you can go to the website. Okay. All right. So this is the book, Woked Up, finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. Now, here's the thing. Everybody should know what a taproot is. The taproot is the main, think of it like the heart, the main vein of a plant or a tree. It's called the taproot. There is a literal taproot for white supremacy and racism. Now, some people would say, since the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, we've had white supremacy and racism. No, they would be misspeaking, or they would be just dramatically incorrect. White supremacy and racism came much, 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 much later as a unique distinction by one person. Now, I know that's hard to believe, but you'll see what I'm talking about here as we go through it. So I'll step you through it. And again, you can ask any questions at the end. Okay, here we go. Let's just talk a little bit. I won't dwell here, but let's see, I have part of it. These are some conversion transformations that are objective of woke leftists, right? And these are some of the things that they talk about, and that are really transformations I thought is pretty brilliant. I got it off of an article, and or somebody wrote something. It wasn't even in an article, so I didn't have anything to give attribution for, but I did get it off of a script that was kind of nondescript, so I couldn't give attribution. But this is what it says. They want to transform or take us from being dumb to demented. Oh, I don't want to do that yet. Okay. And all of the other things there. Okay, I don't know how to get back to it. Let me see. All right, well, Oh, here we go. Let me see here. Bear with me. Bear with me. Here we go. All right, let's see. From dumb to demented, from patriotic to hating everything American, from being today's, and then being today's faithful wokesters are brainwashed into cancel culture, atheism, and intolerance. And so, and then all these other 12 things here you can read. Hopefully, you can get a sense for what those are before I turn to the next page. But we're going to turn to the next page because there's a lot of narrative that I have to provide to you for the next several slides. So how did race actually become an issue? Here's the thing. We did have the Garden of Eden, okay? And then after the fall of man is when everything got haywire, went haywire here in this world, right? In this realm. So here's the thing. After that happened, we had tribalism, where you would go from one tribe, and if you saw somebody from another tribe, you'd be like, I don't trust those people. I don't like those people because they're not like me. That was tribalism, right? Then you had ethnic strife. So, you had aught against another ethnic group because they took your wives and kids or something. They were, a competition for land, or they were forcing a religion or something like it, ethnic strife. So you had tribalism and ethnic strife as a result of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. And that happened for thousands of years. And then you actually came up to the 19th century. And that, well, actually 18th century, late 18th century, and then 19th century. And that's when we actually, where white supremacy as a unique ontological and anthropological distinction was created. And then we had racism in our modern context, a created distinction. And again, it was by one man. Yeah, the same man, actually, who is responsible for evolution. Hold that. Let's go through it. So here's the thing. Here's the timeline. Okay. In 1770, we had an anthropologist, naturalist, materialist, scientist called Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. In the early 1800s, we had Thomas Malthus. In 1859, we had the infamous Charles Darwin that you all are probably quite familiar with. So these are kind of the transitions that brought us into the understanding in our modern context of white supremacy and racism. How did they do that? Let's take a look at what Johann Friedrich Blumenbach did. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, he was a, again, he is the precursor to Darwin. They had the exact same background, scientific upbringing, everything. So Darwin came later, but in 1770, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, he came and he says, look, we have people coming from all these different areas. We should try to classify them as a race. And he says, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all of the continents, 7 continents, but 5 were actually populated enough to make a difference. So I said, we're going to look at the 5 main continents where we actually have population growth, and we're going to classify them. And so that's what he did. He says, look, white Europeans, Middle Easterners, and those types would be classified as Caucasian. Among Mongolians would be the yellow race, including East Asians. And then we had Malayan, which would be brown races in Southeast Asia. Then we had Ethiopian, which would be the black race, which are on the continent of Africa. And then Americans, which would be Native American, red, they called it the natural red, indigenous red race here in America. So 5 races. Had nothing to do with skin color. Not at all. Not at all. He says, look, these are geographies. We classify people by race, by geography, right? Simple enough. And the last thing that he said, he said, you know what? I keep getting asked about Blacks. He said, he says, I've done the cranial research with Blacks, with Africans, with the Ethiopian race. He said, there is no intellectual or cognitive distinction whatsoever with Ethiopians, with the Black race. This is what he said. This is what the man of science discovered in 1770. Keep that in mind. We then go to, this is he coined the term Caucasian. These are some of the things that he did. Okay. Then we go to Thomas Malthus. Now, the thing that's interesting about Thomas Malthus, he was Charles Darwin's first cousin, older cousin, of course, because he was late 1700s and early 1800s. He was think about him as a radical environmentalist. He would be the first radical environmentalist. Had a real phobia about the earth overpopulating and not having enough resources. Firmly didn't believe in a thing such as God. He didn't believe in God. He felt like, look, we are responsible for all Earth's resources, and we have to figure out how do we take care of it. We have all these populations growing, and the Earth cannot maintain its consistency with all of these people. This is Thomas Malthus. You've heard of Malthusian eugenics and other Malthusian theories. He was Charles Darwin's first cousin. Okay, so he was paranoid about food scarcity and those types of things before there was even a green movement or a radical environmentalist movement. This is the guy. This is where it started. Okay, so he had a pretty fatalistic approach that unless we can start to manage population growth, ethnicities would eventually just overproduce and the earth would stop functioning. Okay, so he was Darwin's first cousin. Now, we get to Darwin, respected, renowned person that was had the exact same pedigrees as Johann Friedrich Blumenbach in 1770. He's an anthropologist, naturalist, scientist. Okay, he's notable because he actually came up with his evolutionary theories. Right, he says there's absolutely no God. Men evolve, and he says, look, whites were the first to evolve. Whites have plateaued. We white, pure, Aryan, Caucasian Europeans, we're at the top of the food chain. We're the most intellectual and we have the most resourceful than any other ethnicity. All other ethnicities are still evolving. Some of them have mostly evolved, but whites have we're at the top. White supremacy. That's what he says. Whites are supreme. We're superior. We've plateaued. We've evolved. White supremacy was given its ontological and anthropological distinction. First time in human history. No one else, no other scientist, no other person in history that would be renowned, that would be listened to, made such an audacious claim. Darwin did it. And there's people that love Darwin, hold on to your seatbelt. So he did not only say there is no God, fully embracing atheism, but he fully instantiated white supremacy. Now, what he did as well, that a lot of people don't know, is, if you read his books, like on natural selection, where in natural selection there's this whole idea of competition between races, right? The more the more evolved and the more through natural selection and through the struggle for life, basically, then you have this competition between races. So he really felt that there was a such thing as most favored races. So this is the subtitle of his first book on natural selection: for the preservation of most favored races in the struggle for life. Okay. He goes into on his second book on which his second book was The Descent of Man, goes into detail on what he meant. He says, look, my evolutionary theories are pretty clear. He says, you look at the blacks, you look at whites, first of all, we're supreme. We plateau, we're good. We're the first ones who evolved. But you look at the blacks, you see that they're still subhuman. First time in human history, a man of renowned prominence, scientist who is renowned, declares that blacks are subhuman, apes, gorillas, and savages. Charles Darwin did it. So the guy who instantiates atheism takes it through the roof, because anybody that read his works over that time, even if they were some sort of quasi, they fully rejected God and went in with his evolutionary theories. Atheism went through the roof. He instantiates then white supremacy, hatred, class conflict, class struggle. Then he instantiates racism by saying, look, blacks they're not even equivalent to us. They're still subhuman. You could treat them any old kind of way. Now, some people would say, look, wait. We had slavery before Darwin's work was even public. Yeah, you'd be absolutely right. Now, you remember, what was the premise for slavery? It wasn't that blacks are subhuman or it was economic opportunism. If I had a 40-acre ranch and it was just me and my two sons that had to do all the plowing, somebody came over here and said, give me $10 and I'll give you somebody from another country. You don't have to feed them. You can have them lay on the shed and back and just feed them once a day and give them a little water, and he'll do all your work for you. For a lot of people, that made sense. And so it was economic opportunism, because these people had no papers, they had no, and it was like, oh, okay, I can use that. I could use that labor. Bring as many of them as you can. I'll give you 10, $20, whatever. That's what started the slavery thing. It wasn't, hey, I hate blacks and they're subhuman. And no. Now, the subhuman idea did come during slavery after Darwin's work was published. A lot of people ask, how did you have these white, plantation owners preach on Sunday and go home and beat the slop out of their slaves all the rest of the week? Well, when they got the idea that blacks are subhuman, wow, I can rape, I can pillage, I can beat the crap out of them. Man, this is wonderful. God won't be liable for that. They're subhumans. They're not even, it's like an insect. Maybe one level above the parasite level, parasitical level. So that was the thinking, because they listened to a guy like Charles Darwin. So yeah, there is a taproot to white supremacy and racism. It started in the 1800s. It started by way of a renowned scientist. It started because he was a full-blown white supremacist. Some people say, I challenge that. How could you say he was a white supremacist? Well, first of all, he made these declarations. But second of all, he was such a supremacist, he married his first cousin, fully understanding all of the potential downstream results as far as his children. He did have 10 children. 7 were normal. 3 didn't fare so well. They had all kinds of difficulties due to the closeness of the gene pools, and they died early. So they were born with all kinds of infirmities that really took him out early. So 3 of his kids died. Now, he was a scientist. He knew what he was doing, but he was so committed to protecting the purity of his genes within his family, he married his first cousin. Now, he didn't learn this on his own. Thomas Malthus, his older cousin, actually did the exact same thing. These people were paranoid about the leakage of their pure genes, their intellectual genes leaking out to the general masses. They wanted to keep it as close to the family as possible. So even though they were scientists and knew the downstream risks to their children, they thought it was well worth it to protect their intellectual capacity within their family lines. So they married their first cousin. And unfortunately, their children suffered the consequences. Okay, let's continue. So the pure evil of Darwin, hating God, he said, my number one goal is I'm at war with God. I don't care about any of my other, I'm at war with God. So that was another thing. And that was why he was atheistic and all that. He also, he had another first cousin, younger first cousin, Francis Galton. He and Francis Galton made up out of whole cloths this whole term called eugenics. Eugenics means well-born. So it's the Greek term that means well-born. So here's the deal. They said, look, we have to protect ourselves. You got the survival of the fittest, natural selection. We got all this competition between these other races. If we're not careful, these other races are going to overpopulate. Survival of the fittest is going to kick in, and there's not going to be enough pure white European Caucasians around. They're paranoid about their own supremacy. And so Francis Galton said, look, he actually, modern day statistics came from, he's like the father of modern day statistics. He's, brilliant mind. But he said to his older cousin, Charles, he says, look, I've done all the research. Yeah, I've taken a look at population growth around the world. And it looks bad. We Caucasian, European, Aryans, whatever you want to call them, we're not populating to the degree that these other ethnicities are. So, Charles, we need to come up with a way to, eliminate them. Survival of the fittest, baby. Survival of the fittest. We're scientists, so we can make a declaration. And we could summarily exterminate these other people. So what did they do? They concocted the term eugenics out of whole cloth, no scientific justification whatsoever. And they said, look, if you're not well-born, which would mean white, Caucasian, Aryan, you could be exterminated. And so Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, virtually every murderous despot in human history used Darwin's work and eugenics as justification. Hitler directly pointed to Darwin's work. Stalin directly, I have all the notes, and it gives you their exact quotes. It's there. Oh, no, we can do this. Darwin. Mao, as he starved his, he said, no, survival of the fittest. I mean, if they can't hang, they can't, survive, they're too weak. 10 million, 20 million, 100 million die, whatever. That's what Mao said. Because, look at Darwin. Darwin's work is wonderful. He's a, mastermind. So the worst despots, the worst human atrocities recorded in all of world history resulted from Darwin via eugenics. Now, when eugenics came to the United States, I'll get to this in a second. When eugenics came to the United States, it came by way of forced sterilizations on mostly poor Black women, unwittingly. Oh, we're the government. We're here to help. Why don't you come in for an exam? These Black women in these poor areas come in and they say, look, we're going to sterilize this one. She's got 3 kids already, and she's poor, and she's just going to have more and more and more and more poor. I mean, she doesn't have the intellectual capacity. We know that. Come on. And over 6,000 Black poor women were sterilized without their knowledge or consent. And then you had this crazy, derelict, evil, demonic person called Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood. She says, look, we don't want the word to get out. We want to exterminate all blacks. So I tell everyone, and I'm sure that there's probably some people on this phone, on this Zoom call, who says, look, I'm pro-choice. I don't want to be reckless with it, but women should have the right to do. Okay. I would say to you, if you're a person of integrity, just own it. What do you have to own? You have to own that you are a white supremacist and a racist. It's the only reason why we have abortion today. It's the only reason. It started with eugenics. It started with Darwin saying, look, we don't want others to infringe on our superiority. So he and Francis Galton concocted this, what we call today abortion. That's the only reason why we have it. So, yeah, fine. Women's right to choose. Okay. If that's your stance, just own it. Don't point fingers at anybody else and say, oh, you're a white. No. Just say, look, I believe in a woman's right to choose, and I am a white supremacist and a racist. Be proud. Own it. Be a person of integrity. Just so we could see you. All right? So the baton was handed off to Marx and Engels. If you look at their early works, you'll see that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels dedicated all their early works to Charles Darwin. They fully embraced all of Darwin's theories. So you have a lot of avowed Marxists who are here today, who are probably listening right now or will on the replay. Guess what? If you're a Marxist, socialist, Marxist, communist, you too must own it. Just say, look, Marx loved Darwin, fully embraced and inculcated all of his theories into his Marxist theories. And because I'm a Marxist, I too am a white supremacist and a racist. Just own it. This is where wokeism starts. Okay. Karl Marx was not only was he just a horrible racist, horrible. He hated blacks, used the N-words gratuitously. He had a son-in-law that was a dark-skinned Cuban, wasn't even black. And he called him the N-word. He called him Negrillo, the gorilla, all kinds of horrible pejoratives. And he was used the N-words about Jews and gratuitously against blacks. He was a horrible, demented, he's the most demonic man I ever read about. I mean, nobody fits the definition of a demon like Karl Marx did. Even Engels said, look, this guy is like he's possessed by 10,000 demons. He would just rant and rave all day. His body was covered with boils for decades, all over his body, every square inch. Never took a bath because of it. So he was horrible. The stench was unbelievable. Dead skin, boils all over. Karl Marx. Yeah, and it's amazing that people would today readily identify with Karl Marx. I'm a Marxist. This wretched man, are you kidding me? He is the pioneer of modern day sex slavery. Before there was even a thing like sex slavery, he had a maid who slaved for he and his family for decades. He didn't pay her a plug nickel. As a matter of fact, what he ended up doing is have multiple, affairs with her and got her pregnant, and she betrothed the son for him. Karl Marx didn't pay women, hated women, disdained women, was very much a sexist and a misogynist. And and he was a racist. So you have Darwin, that's an atheist, caused the worst despotic worst human atrocities in history by way of despots. He was a white supremacist and a racist, and he started eugenics, and then he mentored Marx. Marx took everything over. One thing that Darwin did as well in his Descent of Man, for you women out there that may still like him, I don't know. This is what he said about women. He says, look, I've done the cranial research on women. He says women, their cranial cavity is much smaller than that of men. This is what Darwin said. Now I'm going back to Darwin, in his Descent of Man. And he says, look, because of that, their intellectual capacity is so much less. He said, so, women could be relegated. Sexism and misogyny in a modern day context, Charles Darwin. The reason why we had a women's suffrage movement, Charles Darwin. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, Frederick Douglass, when they started women's suffrage, the problem was none of the men at that time believed that women had the intellectual capacity to be able to vote. Charles Darwin, his words, his Descent of Man, look at it. This is what it is. I got it all footnoted, everything laid out for you in the book, okay? So anyway, so we take that heritage, we bring it into Marx. Marx fully embraces all of it and then puts the pedal to the metal with rounding it off with economic theories that are just crazy. Wokeism is a result of his economic theories. If you know anything about critical theory, critical race theory, critical gender theory, critical legal theories, those are all products of Marx, okay? What Marx said is, he says, look, every single hegemonic influence in America or around the world must be completely turned upside down. So if you look at what's happening today through eyes of logic, reason, rationality, you're going to be lost. You're going to think none of this stuff makes sense. You know why? Because you're looking at it through the wrong lens. You have to look at it through the lens of a Marxist revolutionary. A Marxist revolutionary says, look, I am going to take every tradition, everything that's normative, and completely change it upside down. So the reason why a person like me can be called a white supremacist is because normal is turned upside down. And then they rationalize some way of saying, making that arcane, idiotic statement. So anyway, that's what Marx, that's where wokeism comes from. It's all Marxist. Marxist is all racist and white supremacist and sexist. So if you are a Marxist, again, own it. Say, look, I'm a supremacist and a racist because I'm a Marxist. Be proud of who you are. All right. So here's the confirmation, right? Social Darwinism and cultural Marxism has a tremendous impact on modern day white supremacy and racism. Here's the thing. Through social Darwinism, atheism, we got atheism, white supremacy, racism, including slavery, Jim Crow, eugenics and abortion, sexism, mass genocide. And Marx said, look, we're going to take all those things, but we're going to use this tactic for power and control. We're going to keep people emotional and agitated. We're going to use these dog whistles, so to speak, and just keep them ginned up. And we're going to have them basically wanting to be a Marxist revolutionary to turn the tables over. And that's where we are today with wokeism. Now, there was one more thing I wanted to mention about this before I take questions. I'm trying to think of what it was. It was, let me go back. Confirmation, Darwinism, Marxism, how it impacts. Okay. Maybe it'll come to me with your questions on that. I forgot. Yeah, okay. So I think I'll be okay. So anyway, get the book. The book has all the footnotes in. You don't have to hunt and peck all over the internet trying to find exact quotes, letters, and all this stuff. All the research is done. If you want to be able to make the case with your woke friends and help them understand what's really going on, you need the book. It's all done for you. Go to Amazon. You get it in a couple of days. And you'll have everything you need to change the narrative. We have a lot of friends and family that are really hurting themselves by way of holding on to these grievances that are manufactured. And we want to help them. We want to help them know the truth so they can be set free. You need the book to be able to do that. So get the book. Let's see. One other thing I have about Marx. Yeah, it'll come to me later. All right. Bottom line, principled Christ followers reject white supremacy and racism. Oh, I know what it was about Marx. Oh, it keeps going in and coming out. Wait, no, it's not about Marx. It's about Darwin. Okay, good. Creationism. Now, here's the thing. The number one people who are most susceptible to racism and supremacy are those who believe in evolution. Challenge me on that. The reason why I say that is because evolution says we all evolved differently. This is what it is. Whites evolved first. If you're an evolutionist, this is what you do believe because you're following Darwin. If you believe that, you actually do believe that there's differences between races. The only way that you will not believe that if you understand and know there is one God who is not a respecter of persons, a one God who created one man and one woman, put them in the Garden of Eden, and guess what? We're all brothers and sisters that then came out of that one stream. There was no evolving in that Darwin sense. We came out of the one stream of humanity, one human race, together. So if you're a principled person of faith, it's ridiculous to be racist and to believe that there's these differences between ethnicities. Ridiculous. But if you're an evolutionist, of course, there is differences between races. Yeah, some are more intellectual, more supreme. Some think this way and they're born that way. There is no room for nurturing. They believe that everything is innate and came by way of how you evolve. After, of course, the whites did. That's how they think. So Christ followers do not subscribe to white supremacy and racism by definition. Evolutionists do by definition. Okay. I hope that helped. I hope that's helpful. I'll take some questions.
Terry, you're muted.
I realize that my tablet does this fun thing where when somebody stops or starts sharing a screen on Zoom, my whole Zoom window disappears and I scramble to figure out where it went. So that was really, really informative. It really lines up with what we study here. I mean, it's great because we study creation science and we study, the science that supports the creation account in Genesis, but it's very important that we also understand, like I said earlier, the consequences of evolutionary thinking. And when we used to meet in person, we met at the Creation and Earth History Museum in Santee, and there's a whole hallway in there that's dedicated to this kind of subject of the consequences of evolutionary thinking. And we know that communism and socialism both come from that. And Charles Darwin, like, it wasn't just about his, crazy ideas about how animals evolved, which makes no sense because, they lose information. Nobody gains information, but it's also about the racism that he introduced into the world. So you did a really good job of presenting that. Obviously, you've done a lot of research, and so we really appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that. And We do have a couple of questions. One of them comes from Jessica. She'd like to know, how has your family, like your extended family, responded to you standing against the typical things that Black people support: abortion, BLM, critical race theory, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question. Nobody in my family will debate me because I'm a man of principle. I don't care who you are. You can be my mama, daddy, grandfather, great cousin. I don't care. I'm going to stand on the truth 100% of the time. And I'm going to challenge you with it. And so they stay away. They're like, Kevin's not a lightweight. We can't just get him to kind of come over to our side. They know that those days are over. And they know not to ask me questions that they don't really want to hear the answer to. So we give each other a lot of room. We don't ever go into these cultural or political conversations. My wife and I are solid on it. Here's the thing. I didn't go into my background. So let me just tell you one reason why. I lived abject poverty. I was born in Hunters Point projects in the 1960s. And if you know anything about the Hunters Point projects in San Francisco, you know that's where the Black Panthers started. So that's where I came from. And then boy in the hood, growing up, and then went to San Jose State, got a sociology degree. So I'm steeped in leftism, poorism, abject, being poor, poverty, and Marxism and all that. I was comfortable with. I went to San Jose State, got a sociology degree. So I understand all that. I mean, it's part of my history. So when somebody comes to me and say, no, you just don't understand, I say, man, get out of here with that. I live with you. What are you talking about? Then I give my background. They're like, oh, okay. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your face and you just became a conservative because it was, no, I didn't. And nobody talked me into it. It was my own study. It was the divine inspiration for me and my wife. My wife was born in inner city Detroit. We still have people in our family on the system, right? So, no, and we're practical. We're matter of fact, and there's no equivocation. So people in our family don't engage us at that level because they can't. There's nothing they can say, and they'll lose. They'll lose the argument. Why would you want to engage somebody that you're going to go and try to give them some, leftist claptrap, and then you always lose? So yeah, we love them, and we just pray for them and help them to come along. But
well, I think that's encouraging. I think there are a lot of people of color who are in the minority in their family when they stand for these principles, and it's encouraging to hear somebody speak publicly about it so that they have that support and know that it's right, that to stand on the word of God. So that's Robin right. Has a question also.
I think you pretty much answered it with your detail. What I wanted, you said you stand on what you say, and I was just wondering, how did it come to be that you were confident in what you're saying? But it sounds like you did, divine inspiration. Because I ask lefties the same thing. I work with a lot of lefties. And I always ask them, so how did you become so confident in your stance?
Yeah.
And they can never give me a good answer.
Yeah. There's a couple of things. So thank you for that, Robin. Here's the thing. So being a boy in the hood growing up, I tell you what, I was always scrapping in the streets, right? So, I never walked away from a fight. I always ended them. And, that was one of the things I excelled at, is making sure, we take care of business. But here's the thing. So God took that. He says, okay, you like to kind of beat up people and you like to do what you do. Okay, I'm going to put you on the tip of the spear in culture because I know you're not going to back down. You're going to, hey, who is it next? Come on, come with it. And we need more people who are conservative to have that kind of time is short, folks. I mean, we can't pussyfoot around with being straight with people now.
Wait,
so
are you
got to be able to stand firm and ask, and get a steel spine and stand up to him. So that was part of it. The other part of it is when I stand on the word of God, I don't speak out of arrogance. It may come across that way, arrogant and condescending. I feel 100% confident because everything I'm saying is biblical. There's no mystery to it. It's just, so when I confront pastors, I say, so Pastor, could you help me to understand that social justice verse you were trying to connect today? I don't see social justice here. I don't see critical race theory or any of these theories that you're talking about today. Why did you condemn white Christian nationalists and 40 people who voted for 45? Romans 8:1 says, therefore, there is no condemnation from God. He won't even condemn us. And you, Pastor, have the audacity to stand and condemn? Can you help me to understand how this works? So, no, it's just because the word of God declares it, and I can stand on it with 100% confidence.
That's awesome. And I agree, time is short. And a lot of our churches have been infiltrated.
In a big way.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, and we had Trevor Loudon several months ago. I think we're going to be having him again in a couple of months, but he came to talk to us. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he writes about this, how socialism has infiltrated, and not just that, but the reason we had him, and you're probably familiar with the documentary, The Enemies Within the Church. And
I was in that. So
were you in that? Okay.
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah, I have seen it. I'm sorry that I don't remember everybody who was in it, but
I had small parts here and there. But yeah, I was in that. So Trevor's a good friend of mine. Pastor Carey and Judd Saul. I mean, we're all boys together.
And we do have Judd Saul coming up in a couple of weeks. He's going to talk about his ministry in Nigeria, and
that's my boy. He's doing great work.
But the whole premise of that film that you were in is about, how the churches are so have been so targeted, right? And it's not just, it was very eye-opening, because I think all of us here in our Zoom room right now, and people who might be watching live on Facebook, like, we know that CRT and wokeism has crept into the church, but to watch that film and see the underlying cause for that and reasons, it was very eye-opening. So we'll mention that again, that if you guys haven't seen it, you should look for Enemies Within the Church and see that. And then let's see. So Jessica also says that she's finding that standing on the truth of scripture and also having sharp logic skills, thanks to Dr. Lyle. He's one of our frequent speakers. Silences people quickly. So, yes. Well, so I heard from somebody in our room that you also wrote another book for women. Is that right?
Yeah. So the war on women, from the root to the fruit. So really, I take the cultural theme, war on women, we had all these marches, the war on women, there's a war. Okay, so I basically take all that apart and help you to understand what that is. And I start from Genesis. So there is a literal war on humanity by way of women. Started Genesis 3:15, when God said, and there will be war between you, the serpent, and the woman and her offspring. So we wonder why child sacrifices of Baal and Moloch, when they were just putting their kids, throwing them into the fire. Well, that's part of the war. It's been happening for millennia. And then so I take you from the biblical ancient history context and take you through women's suffrage, of the feminist movement, then radical feminism, then transgender and intersectionality and critical race theory, and Saul Alinsky, and all that stuff today. So,
well, you truly are awake. You're throwing out all the names we know.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I mean, we have some comments in Zoom, but not, it doesn't look like any more questions. People are appreciating that.
No more
because,
challenges.
well, and so you're a new name to us for the most part, except for Joyce has heard of your book before. So that was cool. But I think that you've inspired some people here that they've already been grabbing your books on Kindle even while you've been
Yeah.
talking. So
Excellent.
that's great. And
is
hopefully
it on
more people
Kindle?
will-
It is Kindleized, yes.
Okay, because I
If you
like
got
it.
Kindle Premium or whatever, it's even less on Kindle. You can download it now and get into it. Here's my sincere encouragement for everybody, and not because I got any, of course I wrote it and I appreciate it, but we're all being set up on by the woke moms. And for the most part, if you haven't read this book, you have no answers. When they come at you so aggressively, what do you say? I mean, a lot of us are like, oh my goodness, you're so extreme. Give me a break. I mean, why are you coming at me so hard? It'd be better if we actually had some data points on our side and we back them up and say, no, lose me with that. Here's the deal. And we actually coach them into coming our side. But you're not going to be able to make that transition by going tit for tat or by not having talking points and the accurate history on your side. So this book gives you everything you need to be able to make an argument. We have family members that are woke. This is a losing proposition for them. Their soul is at eternal risk as a result of them being woke and fully embracing Marxism. Marxism is demonism. There's no way to separate it. I wish there were, because a lot of these pastors are fully embracing Black liberation theology and liberation theology generally. This comes from South American Marxism.
I've been using the term Luciferian.
Yeah.
I think Karl Marx is just a vile man.
Oh, he was horrible.
And then what you said about him tonight, I didn't know that. And I was just like, oh, that really just grossed me out.
He was a gross man. Oh, for anybody to say, like, BLM beating their chest, we're revolutionary Marxists. I'm like, we're idiots. Why would anybody want to, yeah, but that shows you how ignorant people are. I mean, now we at least have the facts on our side. We can help them. Like, this is not a badge of honor, chill on that,
Yeah, is that because they have not been properly educated, or because they are just so controlled by Satan? I mean, it's got to be one of those two things, right?
Yeah. So we have to remember that there has been by the time that they're an adult, they've been through 15 to 16 years in serious indoctrination. It starts in K through 12. It does. Most of our teachers, card-carrying commies or socialists. So, and then when they go to higher education, they put the pedal to the metal. These professors are just horrible. Overwhelming majority, and they take them through this transition. So these are a lot of these people are winning dupes. They don't understand, and that's where we come in, right?
Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead. And I want you one more time to tell people how they can find you, and then I'll wrap things up. But then if you can stay back after we turn off the recording in the live stream, and then I think maybe some people might have a few more questions that they'd like to ask off the air. Yeah. So that will be better. So tell everybody again how we can find your books and your website, and how people can support you.
Excellent. So a couple of things. Y'all woke up YouTube, subscribe, right? And start to go through my video. I mean, I got hundreds on all kinds of topics, everything that's been happening, right? And then the book you can get, it's Woked Up, or The War on Women from the Root to the Fruit. And right now I'm writing one on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are already available on YouTube. You can get them right now. You can order them. The DEI book will no doubt be on Amazon. I said YouTube. Both of those are available on Amazon already, including I have some more out there too, because this is my fifth. This DEI book is my sixth book now, so I'll be going into that. So my books are available on YouTube. You can go out there. You get them in a couple of days, and they're provocative. They're all culturally relevant. They're all faith relevant. I try not to be heavy-handed with faith because there's a lot of people that really don't want that faith element coming in, especially right away. So I nuance it, but you by the end of it, you get the sense who I am and that I'm a minister, and that's So so that's how you do that. And then the website is everyblm.com, everyblm.com. And we stand up for faithfulness and righteousness and justice all across the country. We do anti-CRT trainings. We do trainings on, racial unity and diversity, and from the proper perspective. So
That's great. That's really needed. So, and then we're Creation Fellowship Santee, and you can find links to most of our past presentations by typing in tinyurl.com/CF Santee. That's C like creation, F like fellowship, and Santee is spelled SANTEE. You can also email us at creationfellowshipsantee@gmail.com, so you can get on our email list so you don't miss any of our upcoming speakers. Our next speaker, we're actually taking next week off. It'll be a break. So on March 30th, we'll be back. My friends, Mark and Becky Bryan, who are longtime missionaries in Austria, have developed some crafts that people can make to teach Bible lessons with kids. So they're going to be telling us about that ministry and the crafts that they have available. That'll be a special Creation Fellowship. So a little bit less heavy than tonight, but a blessing nonetheless, as was tonight. So thank you, Kevin, so much for your talk tonight.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thank you.